Ratnakirti, an 11th century scholar of the Sakara Vijnanavadi school, tries to establish variegated non-dualism as the nature of reality in his short treatise entitled Chitradvaita Prakashabhada. Let us turn to that. So now we will be discussing Ratnakirti's argument for variegated non-dual consciousness. Now there are three factors involved in the thesis of variegated non-dualism. 1. Reality is variegated. 2. Reality is consciousness. And 3. Reality is non-dual. Of these three factors, there can be no dispute about the first factor because variegatedness is established by our common knowledge and experience. The second factor, that everything is consciousness, is established by the argument from co-cognition, as we have seen before. However, there can be dispute about the third factor, namely non-duality or oneness, because it is seemingly contrary to the first factor, namely variegatedness. Hence, Ratnakirti proceeds to prove oneness of the variegated reality. His argument runs as follows. The composite having variegated contents like color such as white, musical notes such as gandhara, taste such as sweet, smell such as fragrant, touch such as soft or tender, feeling such as happiness, etc. is one because it is manifested. As for example, the blue form amidst a composite of variegated forms. We see that the subject or paksha of this inference is this composite. The inferable property or sadhya is oneness, and the inferential mark or hetu is the property of being manifest. And the example or drishtanta is the blue form amidst a composite or variegated form. According to Ratnakirti, the property of being manifest is nature as mark, svabhava hetu, as it is of the nature of oneness, which is the inferable property here. It follows that the relation between the property of being manifest and oneness is that of identity. Whatever is manifest is one. Now, before delving into the nuances of this inference, one should remember two things. First, the criterion of existence here shifts from causal efficacy to manifestation. To exist is to be manifest, and by this single stroke, the unreality of contents stand refuted. Second, to be manifest is to be included within a single unitary cognition because manifestation and oneness are inseparable. Ratnakirti then defends this inference against possible objections. The inferential mark, he says, is not unproved in the subject or asiddha. The fallacy called asiddhi occurs when the inferential mark does not exist in the subject. In the present case, if manifestness does not exist in the composite, that is, the composite is not manifest. But perception proves, as Ratnakirti argues, that the composite contents manifest. The fallacy called viradha occurs when the mark is pervaded by the absence of the inferable mark. In the present case, if manifestness is invariably related with non-oneness or manyness. The opponent argues that the composite things which are manifest are many because they have many contrary properties, viruddha dharma. Anything can be said to have contrary properties if the properties are distributed through different times or spaces or forms. As the forms of a composite are different due to difference in their forms, similarly, blue color is extended over different space points. Therefore, the instance, namely blue color, has absence of inferable property, namely oneness in it. Hence, The inferential mark here suffers from the fallacy called contrariety or viruddha. This is the objection of the opponents. Now Ratnakirti answers this objection by paying back the realist in his own coin. Only a gross or sthula object can be manifest, he says, and as a gross object it is one. If difference in space accounts for difference in the objects occupying the spaces, he argues, then according to the realist, blue being collection of different atoms occupying different spaces would be many and not one. Now many atoms would have only atomic magnitude and would not be gross or sthula and hence would not be manifested. It follows that blue amidst composite of variegated forms would be one, and the instance given by Ratnakirti is not inadequate. The third possible fallacy of the mark here is inconclusiveness, anaikantika. In this inference, oneness is the inferable property, hence any locus of non-oneness or manyness will constitute the dissimilar instance here, and according to the opponent that leads to the following paradoxical situation. The situation is, when we cognize non-existence of the mark in a dissimilar instance, is the instance manifest or not? If it is, then it would imply that since the mark, that is manifestness, exists in the dissimilar instance, also it is vitiated by common inconclusiveness. On the other hand, if it is not, then its non-existence in the dissimilar instance will be uncertain, and the mark will suffer from the fallacy called uncertain non-existence in the dissimilar instance. Sandigdha vipaksha vyatirikitvam, because it is not clear from where the mark is to be excluded. Moreover, the opponent's particular worry regarding the imputation of contrary qualities has not yet been answered. Why should we think only non-duality or non-difference is manifest in self-awareness? Are not blue and yellow really different in our experience of variegation? Surely, an opponent is made to object. To say a variegated thing is unitary, chitramekam, is against our experience, for blue and yellow and so on appear only as different, bheda. Further, variegated or chitra, multiple or nana, and manifold or aneka don't have different meanings, and that is established through the implicative negation of being unitary, eka pariyudasena, which thus implies being manifold. So, how can a variegated thing be unitary? The cognition, this is blue, this is yellow, is a cognition of difference precisely in so far as blues and yellows' respective natures are mutually related. It would seem to be immediately evident to self-awareness that blue and yellow are different. To be blue is to be non-yellow and vice versa. These two natures are opposed, and these opposed natures cannot be present in one and the same place. And indeed, they are also not experienced as present in one and the same place. They are experienced as different. That is what variegation means. The manifold nature of variegation is irreducibly multiple. How can then the Sakaravadins defend that it is non-dual? Ratnakirti argues that the opponents who raise both the above objections subtly assume external realism and can be dealt with by simply pointing out that objects can be of two kinds: object of grasping, grahya, and object of determination, adhyavasaya. Something can be an object of determination even if it does not exist. According to Ratnakirti, In the first case, where the inferential mark has been rendered inconclusive, the dissimilar instance is just an object of determination and not that of grasping. In the second case again, the opponents claim that if blue and yellow are one, blue would be yellow is a fault only with regard to objects towards which external action is directed or with regard to the object of determination. For then there would be the unwanted consequence that actions undertaken with respect to blue would not satisfy the person who wants an effect with respect to yellow. For example, if a painter is handed yellow paint having asked for blue, she will be disappointed. Yellow will not accomplish the same goals as blue. Filling in the sky in a scene of horizon, for instance. In other words, blue and yellow are multiple different colors or nana when it comes to externally directed activity and the satisfaction of particular needs. But this is all abandoned when we consider awareness, which is identical with its content alone, for there is no difference. Blue and yellow that manifest in awareness are variegated or chitra, but this does not mean, as the opponent claims it does, that they are multiple or nana. Variegation is not the negation of being unitary, and so there is no contradiction in saying that what is variegated is unitary. The very existence of difference, the Sakaravadin continues, is in fact limited to the external. Difference sets limits on the efficacy of our actions, on the objects that will satisfy particular needs, and so on. However, in the case of cognition, difference is really the abandonment of the nature of cognition itself, for the existence of cognition, which is independent of causal efficacy, is just due to manifestation. The variegated non-dualism refers to subjective consciousness of someone as it is surrounded by forms at a given point of time. As Ratnakirti clarifies in the very first statement, variegated non-dualism is the particular consciousness surrounded by the circle of those many forms at a particular time for a particular person, which manifests in that person with those many forms at that time. In this subjective consciousness, there can be diversity of forms without breaking its unity. Diversity can be contrary to unity only in the case of external objects. It is not possible in the case of self-manifesting consciousness or swasamvedana, as the diverse objects are inseparable aspects of the consciousness itself, which is the nature of reality according to Ratnakirti. This subjective idealism is also argued as solipsistic in the last essay entitled Santanantara Dushanam of Ratnakirti Nibandhabali. However, Ratnakirti's solipsistic arguments can be a different theme for discussion. Thank you.